Morning, everybody, and welcome to the May 25th, 2021 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We are glad you are with us, and we will begin as we always do with an invocation. Please stand and join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, please look over us as we make decisions for the good of our community. Please look over the residents and all the citizens of Henderson County and our region. Please look over our first responders as they continue to deal with the effects of COVID. Please look after our men and women in uniform, both here and overseas. We say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Moran.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate McComb.
Here.
Magistrate Berry.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the May 11th fiscal court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We got three sets of minutes.
May 20th.
Any corrections, clarifications, or additions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I also have the minutes of the special call meeting on May 20th. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other corrections there? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And you also have minutes of the special called meeting on May 19th. Motion to approve.
I move we accept them.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a magistrate who will have to leave here fairly expeditiously, so to help move that along a little bit for him, I'd like to go ahead and begin with the first reading of the 2021-22 fiscal year budget and ask Treasurer Ryder come up, please.
This is the first reading of the fiscal year 21-22 budget, and it is being presented as balanced revenue and appropriation, corresponding corporate appropriations in the total amount of $36,630,247.17. The breakdown, again, each of these funds are balanced in respect to revenue and appropriations. General fund, $9,492,829. Road fund, $5,144,564. Jail fund, $9,498,533.17. LGEA, Local Government Economic Assistance Fund, $735,300. State Grants Fund, $596,508. Federal Grants Fund, $200,000. Economic Development Fund, $60,000. Employee Health Insurance Fund, $2,100,000. ARPA, ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, $8,801,513. Again, the total balance budget is being presented as $36,630,247.17.
Thank you. I wanted to note the ARPA money being put into the budget. This is at the recommendation of Department of Local Government. So we are going to reflect it coming into the budget. It'll make it easiest when that actually happens, so that it inflates our budget a little bit up to $36 million, but I guess in a good way. And again, at the recommendation of DLG, we decided to go this route. So, any questions of Brenda? Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Southard.
We're voting.
Voting.
Aye.
Okay. I thought you said here.
We need a motion.
Oh, motion to approve. I'm sorry. I need a
So
motion to
moved.
approve. Motion and a second. Any other
Aye.
questions? And there we go. And call the roll, please.
Manager Southern.
Aye.
Manager Moran.
Sorry.
Aye.
Manager Putman.
Aye.
Manager McCollum.
I'm going to vote no. My numbers of looking at the raises, I'm not against anybody or want to help our employees. I definitely want to help those that are starting off and starting their positions, because trying to hire people right now is very difficult. I did make the motion last week to approve those numbers for the jail. But looking at the numbers, I've got 30% raises in some places. I've got 11, 19, 17. The raises are higher than our income is growing. And as a business person, you can't raise your cost faster than your income is growing. It will cross the line, and then you're in deficit problems like we were about 2015, 2016. So I can't vote for it for that reason. Also, in looking at the Compass Group's numbers on our retirement problem, we are already pushing our salaries to the level of about 2025 based on their numbers. And it is not sustainable, in my opinion, so I vote no.
Manager Berry.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye for the record. Thank you much. And Keith, when you have to go, you head on out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brenda, we also need to do the standing orders.
Yes,
Okay.
that's in the back of the packet.
These are the annual standing orders, the costs that we pay every month, and we give approval to one time, and they include things like utilities, grant payments, phones, postage, payroll, and health insurance premiums.
Has everybody seen them?
It was in your packets. that I
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions about those? We do that every year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay, we have with us from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Ethan Johnson, compatriot Nick Hall with us as well. Welcome. Jason. And in the course of building both the rural road recommendation and then ORX, we're going to be visiting with these folks for the next few minutes. And first order of business is the annual rural and secondary road recommendations, and Ethan Johnson is going to lead us through that.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Take you through the 2021-2022 rural secondary recommendations. So this is just a map of Henderson, and I know it's probably hard for most people to see, but the bold yellow is rural secondary routes, so I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. There's quite a few, of course, in Henderson. And we'll touch on this a little bit later. Just some facts about it. There's about 230 center lane miles of state maintained roadway. About 136 and a half of those are rural secondary roads. 122 state maintained bridges, and 46 of those are rural secondary bridges. So our district recommendations this year, we're going to work on Kentucky 145 asphalt resurfacing from about the 1.5 to the 3.5. That will pick up where we left off a few years ago, where we stopped at 2253. So I'm going to pick up there and go to Dixon number 1, number 2, that intersection right there. I would have liked to just complete the whole route, but the money didn't work out that way, so that's going to be $185,000. Kentucky 416 is on here several times. The route's in actually pretty bad shape overall, as you'll see from some of these pictures. The first part that I would like to do is the base failure repairs near the new Dollar General right there off of the interstate there. So we're going to go ahead and repair those base failures. I predict that's going to be about $20,000. Sometimes they come back with higher base failure numbers. It just depends on, right now they're bidding them relatively low because we're pretty competitive here, so hopefully that number is still about the same. Then Kentucky 416, again, asphalt resurfacing from where we finished the Kentucky 416 interchange there. It's still in fairly decent shape, so I'm just going to start on that side road there, Kentucky 2096, and pave all the way to Kentucky 136 there at Niagara. So about 2.7 miles, it's about 255,000. And then there's another spot on Kentucky 416 that's got really bad base failures that we resurfaced somewhat recently. It's just past Kentucky 520, and it goes from 520 to Middle of Delaware Road, so I'd like to go ahead and fix those base failures too, and, you know, dig out the ditches, try to make sure that that road holds up, because it shouldn't be doing what it's doing. I just feel like the subgrade's probably not in great shape, but I want to go ahead and fix that so just the road rides better and it doesn't get any worse. If anybody's been out there, you'll see some pictures here later. And then pipe replacements on all these roads. Sometimes we run into budget issues with our district budget and trying to get our RS things lined out, so it's going to be better to put these pipe replacements in our rural secondary budget to make sure that we get these done, because we don't want to go back and dig up roads that we've just resurfaced and put humps in them and dips in them. And it'll also help to make sure that I have it available so we don't get some of these other issues that we've been having where we've replaced the pipe like right before the road gets done, and then we start having dips in there. So this will just work a lot better for scheduling, and all this work does need to be done, as I'll kind of explain a little bit later. And then for flex funds this year, Kentucky 416, again, it's that section that you'll kind of see it on the map here from Niagara to 520. That's going to be resurfacing. That's about a mile. And it's about $130,000. So $130,000 compared to the $133 for flex, and then our KYTC funds adds up to, I think, $590,000. So pretty much using all the budget there. There really was more that I wanted to do, just to kind of point this out right now. Kentucky 145, I'd like to do the rest of that. Kentucky 283 needs some resurfacing too, and the other part of 416 needs it as well. And then there's some substandard bridges on Kentucky 416 that also need some work. And I'm not a politician, but my number was higher when we were expecting the gas tax to pass, and then I got the new number when it didn't, and so that cut our ability to do some of the things that I'd really like to do to make sure all these roads are in nice and good shape. But again, I'm not a politician, but I just know what the numbers told me. So we're going to move over to the rural secondary funds. So again, $596,000. The first route I'm going to look at is Kentucky 145. As you can see, it's there from Dixon number 1 and 2 up into 2253 right there in Dixie. And so you can see here, get this pointer out, you can see the cracking. The cracking's starting to get pretty large, and when that happens, it just continues to get worse with the freeze-thaw cycle. So we want to go ahead and put another surface course on that to prevent that from getting any worse. And you can also see just more cracking on the route, and you can kind of see how the asphalt's starting to get stripped a little bit, which is also bad for the road. And you can kind of see some of this fatigue starting up, so it'd be good to put some more material there to kind of reinforce that, because when you get those issues for too long, you end up with base failures all along here, and that's kind of what's happened here, is it's just gotten worse and worse over time. And so we'll have to fix that base failure when we're here.
Will you re-ditch that before you do that? Because
Yes,
that's-
I'd like to make sure that we're taking care of our routes like that from now on. Sometimes we kind of lose track of when we need to start ditching and things, and sometimes I know that George has his own system for ditching and things like that, but I would really like to start when we're thinking about resurfacing a real secondary route, that we come through and do everything that we need to when we resurface it. That way we just
That needs to be mandatory, that you do
right.
that.
That way we just don't have to touch it again.
Water
So-
is your enemy.
Right,
And
of course.
if you don't crown
yeah.
the roads and get the water off,
Yeah.
I mean, you can look right there and look at the ditches and see what's
Yeah.
causing that. That's not,
Yeah.
rocket science at all.
Yeah.
That's just water.
And we'll see some more of that as we go through here, I believe, so. So that's 145. The next route we have is Kentucky 416. You'll kind of see this little piece here, that's where the Dollar General is, and then resurfacing all through there. And then here's the base failures off the interstate there. I mean, they're pretty bad. I believe there's 4 really bad ones, and so I'd like to fix those. Since we're near the area, I'd like to go ahead and get them fixed. I think it'll be a lot better financially, since we're already real close, and doing all these base failures together, I think will give us a better price.
What will you do? Will you just cover it up?
No, we dig out and typically what we'll do is dig out and put 8 inches of asphalt base back in there.
Will you put fabric down first?
What I'd like to do is look at it when we dig it out to see if it needs it. I don't know if it may be a water problem there, but this doesn't seem like it should be a water problem. It seems like it should just be a base problem. Usually just putting a lot of base in it will fix the problem. It's just because it's so much material and it sticks together real well. That's usually how we fix them. So I think that's what's going to work. Again, I'm hoping it will work. It's a lot of heavy truck traffic out there. Because when we build new roads, we normally put a rock road bed in and then put base and then put surface and all that kind of stuff. So I think the 8 inches of base will hold up. I really do. But if it doesn't, then, we'll have to keep looking at things, because I just don't think that part of the road was made for that much truck traffic is inevitably the problem. But I do think it'll hold up, so hoping it'll hold up. And I think this will help too, just to give it a winter to see what it does. Typically, sometimes when we're doing base failure repairs, we kind of come right back over it, and then sometimes you may get like a little dip, but I'm hoping that giving this a winter, and then I can work on resurfacing that little bit, assuming these base failures hold up like I'm expecting them to. So here, Kentucky 416 is just past the interchange there. It's got kind of the same problems as 145 has, except it's even more stripped. You can kind of see where all the aggregates popped out of here. So all that's come off, and then it's got these cracking too, where it's just bad for the road. And then it also has these spots with these trees, and there's even more spots with the trees as you come along the route. And what that'll do is it'll keep water, like he was saying, water's the enemy. And so the water will stay there, and then it'll do its freeze thaw thing, find any spots that it can, and it doesn't dry up, it doesn't dry off, and so it'll start damaging the road. And we've got more areas than just this one on the road, so it would do it some good to, again, see if we can dig out this ditch a little bit, see if we can get a better crown on the road to get that water off of there. And then you've got more base failure areas on this part of 416 as well. There's several on this route, and this is one of the worst ones, but just spots where the roads,
Yeah, see, there's no ditch there, really.
yeah,
It's crumbled into.
Almost impossible to put a ditch in.
yeah,
You got that hillside slope right there.
Yeah.
And you can see you only got maybe 2 foot from the edge of the asphalt to the slope starts. And then you got utilities buried in there,
yeah.
which costs a lot of money to try to relocate in order to try to move the ditch further from the road. So you combine all of those factors, it makes it very difficult to establish a ditching area.
Now, I have learned about something that they use in District 3. It's like a ditching machine. It's it goes on our over-the-rail mower, kind of, and it cuts just like a really thin strip of a ditch.
Rotary ditcher.
Yeah, rotary ditcher, there you go. That's what it was called. I hadn't heard about it, but, so I think that's something that I'd like to start looking at doing in these places, if the hillside won't fall back into it and shut it again. And I don't want to do that where I will completely destabilize a slope, but this one, this one's not too bad. So I think if the utilities aren't at the surface, then that's something that I would look at doing, if we could get that equipment in and do that, to get the water off the road.
Do you know what kind of utilities are there?
There's always something. There's always something there.
Telephone, water,
But I haven't actually had it buddied yet, so I don't know exactly what's there. But again, when we go through and resurface all these routes, that'll be the thing to do, bud the route, figure out where we can ditch, figure out where we can improve the drainage, so. So the next part of 416 is just base failures only. I'm not going to resurface that part of the route for now. It's just, if I'm going to be doing all these base failures, I like to do all the base failures at the same time. Like I said, I think it'll be a better price, and I think it'll be good for the roads just to have that base set over the winter time and then make sure that it's going to hold up like I expect it to. And so here's just a couple pictures of that. Again, that part of 416, it hasn't been long since it's been resurfaced. You can kind of see that the pavement doesn't look too worn. It doesn't look anything like the other pavements that I've been talking about, and yet it still has these giant base failures, which, again, this ditch kind of holds water a little bit, so that's kind of a problem. So, again, just some ditching work. Hopefully that'll take the water off, and hopefully this will hold up. And then there's one more spot. There's several base failures on that route, like quite a few. But I'm also picking up this spot. It's on the other side of Middle Delaware Road. You can barely see it just because of how the tree cover is, but it goes across the whole lane all the way like right up to here. So it's a pretty large one that needs to be fixed. So I was going to go ahead and do that, even though I'm looking at resurfacing that route soon, that part of Kentucky 416, just so it has time to sit, which again is better for it if it has more time to sit. And so as I mentioned before, these pipe replacements, we get a lot of this here in Henderson. It's almost like these head walls are almost holding up the road, but this is the exact spot where these concrete pipes that are in there, they always fall at this joint right here, the first one that's attached to this head wall. And so you'll get material just seeping in there, and then it'll fail there. And we've had a lot of success in Webster County putting pipe liners through there. And then he's just been filling them with like the foam, but we can also grout them in and make sure like nothing else gets in there. And so that'll technically kind of fix some of this problem because it's just material seeping in there. And then if there's enough room, we typically rip these off. But if there's not enough room, then we'll just try to stabilize them as best we can so that doesn't happen.
So just to give you a quick background.
Jason, if you're could you talk into the mic, just to make sure you're on the record? And introduce yourself again.
Sorry, I'm Jason Ward. I'm the branch manager for District 2 for construction and maintenance. And Ethan's doing a good job, great presentation, and I hope he's answering your questions. But just to give you some background on why we get these issues. These pipes were probably put in back in the 1930s, what we used to call WPA times, all right? So they've been in the ground 80 plus years. And these pipes are usually concrete pipes, and they come in 4-foot sections. And what happens over time, especially in an area like Henderson where you have a lot of rich soil and not a lot of rock, over time they'll just start to separate, some of that soil, especially on the ends of your pipes, will start to wash over time. And so then the pipes start to drop and that joint separates. When that joint separates, then the material above it starts to go through the pipe, and then you start getting these drop-off areas like you see on the edge of the pavement here. So that's what causes that. And what Ethan's proposing is the best solution to repair it and to do it efficiently and cost effectively.
So they're going to reline this then?
If we're able to, we're going to reline them because it's cheaper and
Right.
it'll keep the pipe there. The concrete pipes are good, they're sturdy, and there's probably not a ton of cover there, so we don't necessarily want to put a different material pipe there, but the liners will just help keep everything in place. And so that's probably what I'm going to do is in many cases as I can. But if that won't work, then we'll just have to rip the pipe out and put a new one in, whether that's we use either corrugated metal or the high-density polyethylene.
When you use the liner, do you use where you've got the heated plastic that you put in and blow it up, or do you?
We typically, the ones that I've had success with in Webster, we typically just get something that's a little bit smaller than the pipe diameter and then just slide it through.
Shove it in there,
and then-
okay.
Yeah, so that's what we've been doing.
And then
We've had
seal-
success in Webster with it.
Seal
He's
around
been-
it then,
yeah.
so, yeah.
And he's had a lot of success with it. That's what he's been using for a long time now. So I think that's what we're going to try to do on all these.
Also, on the pipeliners we use, they're on the inside, they're a smooth wall pipe.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
So even though you may be using a little bit smaller diameter pipe, because it's smooth wall, you get a lower Manning coefficient, so you actually get more flow through the pipe than you do with the existing concrete pipes that have friction because of the texture of the surface.
Right.
So we're not cutting the flow down. It should actually increase the flow of the water that can go through the pipe, even though it's a little bit smaller diameter.
80-year-old
And I mention that because some people out in that area, especially in the farming community, that they worry about, we're making a smaller pipe, which could cause issues with flooding, but we're actually increasing the flow, which shouldn't change anything.
All right. So again, we're going to do that using our rural secondary funds. And so flex funds, we have 133,000 approximately. And I was wanting to do the section of Kentucky 416 with that from Niagara to Upper Delaware Road, there, Kentucky 520. Again, it's similar to the other sections of Kentucky 416. It's stripped. You can kind of see that. You can see the cracking. Again, up through here, there's not like a ton of a ditch, but it's mostly just the stripping and the cracking up through here. And then again, you get in these situations where you're starting to get a lot of fatigue. It's just really old pavement through here. Like you can see this, some of this stuff isn't just water. It's old. It's really old. And again, the more you let that stuff go, the more you'll tend to start seeing base failures. And again, this could probably be cut better, but you'll just see these areas start to form the more age gets on the pavement and the more it starts to fatigue over here on the edge. And so this is just a map that would show the dark blue is everything we've resurfaced in the last 10 years. This light blue down here is what we were going to do with our funds. And then this little piece right here is what I was suggesting for the flex funds. And I'm going to go over this just a little bit more in detail because there's some routes on here that should be resurfaced already, but due to COVID and some of the way that the budgets worked out, things didn't really work out like they should have. So I just want to go over that real quick and just update on some previous rural secondary things that we've talked about in the past. So again, here's the map. So this piece should have been resurfaced already. 812 should have been resurfaced already, and 283 should have been resurfaced already. We approved that back in 2019, and it didn't get done because of COVID and the budgets. And I don't know why. I'm not a politician. I don't work in Frankfort, but Henderson's rural secondary didn't get resurfaced for some reason. It didn't get let with the Webster County and the Union County ones that did. So it kind of just fell in the wrong spot. Ended up what happening. So those will be done before July of this year. They've got the signs up on them now, and they're going to start working on them very shortly. So those will be done. And then last year, when we presented at the court, we thought that Kentucky 1078, the intersection realignment, would be a little bit cheaper than it ended up being, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. And so what happened was I didn't let anything last year because I didn't really want to. I thought that we could get everything done and get it let and get everything let together, the 1078 realignment and then these other two roads that we decided on. But it didn't work out that way. So I'm going to put those two roads in with this year's rural secondary and make sure it's let basically as soon as possible. And then they'll all get resurfaced at the same time, and they should all be resurfaced before the winter. Because one of those roads was Kentucky 1299 on the other side of 425, and that's got really bad base failures too. Again, ditching will help. So I just want to get everything done. So once that happens, the map will look more like that. So that helps a lot, going from that to that. So it's quite a few more lane miles getting resurfaced hopefully by the end of this year.
Bill, is Barron Church ours or theirs?
It's theirs.
What was the question?
Is Barron Church Road ours or the state's?
Part, ours, part state. Yeah.
Because we got water running uphill. It doesn't
South.
run, but it sits in the
There's-
ditch.
There's two sections.
Okay.
Part of it's theirs. So,
South is ours and.
Pardon?
South is ours and north is theirs, isn't that correct?
Okay.
But you said you are gonna ditch before you start.
Yes,
resurfacing.
that, again, I want to get that rotary ditcher. I'd really like to try to get hold of, because one of the reasons that we don't ditch is because we run into those areas where you can't get a 2-foot bucket in there,
Right.
but you could get the rotary ditcher in there. I think that would solve a lot of our water problems. And something else I've been considering with those kind of areas is maybe some kind of French drain type thing too. If I was worried about the slope coming down, just to kind of keep everything there, but I haven't done any of that yet. But once I get the rotary ditcher, which hopefully we'll be able to get, I'd like to start making sure that all this water gets off our roads.
Will it work on like the blacktop that's dropped down into that's filled the ditch? Will it?
I mean, we can't.
It'll treat the blacktop just like rock.
Yeah.
So it will go through it?
Yeah, it should go through.
You mentioned $12.99,
Sorry.
on the,
Mhm.
right before 12.17, on 12.99 where you make the hard curve.
Mhm.
There's a real dangerous spot right there. It's got a concrete embankment that there's no shoulder, none. If you drop off right there, and there has been some accidents there.
Okay. I'll make a note of that, and I'll take a look at it.
It's probably about 150 yards before you get to 12.17 on the right, going toward Roberts.
All right, and as I mentioned, we look at 1078. So when we originally presented, me and Nick, when we were here presenting last year, well, I'll get to that here in a second. First off, the existing site distance is only 370 feet from the west, and then what we want, which is 495 or more looking east. The 370 is actually only good for about 45 miles an hour. So it's not ideal. And I really don't think you even have that when you're actually sitting there on the road about to pull out, because there's just stuff completely in your way. But this is what our designers looked at, I guess, if you were sitting like all the way up. So what Nick and I came up with last time, and when we presented it to the court, we were thinking, why don't we just kind of move it over right there and put it there? And Nick and I didn't really do very much survey work. We did some just to make sure that we thought it would work. But we did run into, there's a water line here. Would we end up having to get too close to this pole? Things like that. So as design looked at it and did a lot more survey work, when they looked at it, they were saying, you'd improve this, you still wouldn't get where you wanted to be, and then you'd start losing cars because of the way the hill is on the east side where we would have to put it. So we couldn't do that either. So as they looked at it, they decided that one of the solutions, and it would be a little bit more expensive, but again, what's the price when it comes to somebody's safety and making sure we don't have any fatalities, is why don't we start to deviate right there and make it come out here. And when they looked at all the numbers, they ended up with, we would have the sight distance that we needed from the west and still maintain the sight distance in the east. So that's what we ended up wanting to do. So the cost of that, including, so with rural secondary money, we can actually buy right away, we can move utilities, we can do a lot of good with rural secondary money. So we ended up, we're going to have to buy right of way in that area. We may have to move utilities. It's not clear if the utility company will just kind of do it for free or if we'll have to pay them to do it. It's only just a really small amount. It's like one foam pedestal. They may just bury it and be done. And if they do that, that'd be good. That'd be a little bit of cost savings for us. Between that and construction, it's about $350,000, which we still have left over from last year because we kind of talked about it. So again, it's kind of a high cost. It's several lane miles worth of resurfacing, but it's also saving lives. So it's something that I think is a good project and something that will make that intersection safer for forever and not just, a small period of time. So right now, the current stage that we're at with that project as well is we're buying right away and moving utilities right now. I just got the approval to do all that, and we just got through with our design meeting on it. So it's moving, And I'm hoping that when I present to the court next year, I'll have Kentucky 1078 realignment as part of our rural secondary recommendations, and we can get that grouped in with next year's rural secondary. So just another update from previous rural secondary. We got the flex funds in 2019 again to replace a culvert on Kentucky 416. Again, with COVID and things like that, it just didn't work out to get it replaced. And so, and with Nick's transition also, of course, but so we're going to replace this. It's on the list of things that should be done hopefully by the end of June, no later than the end of July. So we'll get that done as soon as possible. And again, we'll press release and all that kind of stuff when it all comes down to it. But so we do have that. We have the culvert itself. It's just a matter of making sure that we are able to rip everything we need out and put that back in. And we had to wait a little bit because it's best to wait until it dries up, of course. It's just easier on everybody. And so as far as rural secondary things, that's it. But I did want to mention one more thing that we've been working on as well, which is there's a culvert replacement on US 60 that we want to do. And I don't know how many people normally get out towards Reed area down there near Spotsville, but this guardrail looks kind of weird because we replaced all this other guardrail through there if anybody's been out that way. But we left this off because we were planning on replacing this culvert. And it's taken longer than I would like to get the culvert in our hands and to actually get out there and do the work. But I was looking at doing it earlier this year, but it started, you know how it does. It rains in March and then it's all flooded right here. I mean, it's a slough right here. And so I was talking with the farmer, and he said he would be okay with us going onto his property and kind of staging over here. And then I was going to get a crane to lift it into place so we don't have to close 60 any longer than we have to, because I know that nobody wants 60 to be closed. So that's what I would like to do just for construction purposes. So I'll need to wait until he harvests his crops, though, because I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to run over his crops to do that work. And he said I could use it, so so if I used it now, I'd have to pay him for his crops, and that would just be money that we could spend elsewhere, making sure that this is as safe and as good as possible. So so I think that's about all I have. Is that Kentucky 136 thing done? River Bottom property?
I think they did him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last thing, I'll just move it to the next slide. The last thing is the Kentucky 136 down in the river bottoms. I think you take care of that. It's that property, I think, has come through, and we're in the process of the deed and everything now for that stretch there where we had to bypass that spot where we closed the road because it was just it wasn't financially feasible for us to fix that spot without spending a lot of money, and we were worried too that even what we spent wasn't going to hold up. So, and I know you've talked about a few other spots out there. We're starting to work on those this week or next week. So, is there anything else?
It's my understanding that we have to approve the flex funds. Is that correct?
If you keep the flex funds, you still have to vote that you are keeping them. And yeah, we also we even approve the KYTC funds. I'll need those approved as well, yeah.
Our
Yeah.
flex funds, I seen your pictures of your roads, and we've got several roads that's in as bad, if not worse shape.
Yeah, I completely understand. Again, it's a budget thing. I get it.
So, to answer your question is, the fiscal court will need to bring up whether you approve or disapprove our rural secondary KYTC fund usage.
These
And-
recommendations.
Yes, these recommendations, and then you will also need to specifically state whether you're going to keep the flex funds or allow us to use those flex funds, and have a motion and vote, and then once we get the meeting minutes, then we can proceed. And if you want to make changes, then we're open to your recommendations, and we'll have to reduce some of these estimates and come back and represent and then you all have to do a motion then. Either way, we can't move forward without an motion and approval.
I would say that both county and state roads in our county need all the TLC they can get, so doesn't matter whether we spend them here or there, it all needs to get done. And I'd recommend approving this plan, and I especially like to hear that we're going to be catching up on some of the things that got away from us a little bit last year, and hopefully by the end of this calendar year we'll be up to speed. Yeah.
But we're catching up with the things that was gonna be last year. It's not on this budget, right? It was already, the money's already there.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, once the money is allocated to a county, it does not leave that county.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't get spent this year, it carries over to the following year. It never leaves.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's kind of how the 1078's working out. I'm just holding the money over until we actually let that project. So there'll be, I said 350, so there'll be 250,000-ish in there, just roll over. That way I can put that in with next year's, and you'll still see KYTC funds next year will be, about that much. Resurface all that plus 1078 will go in there too, so.
I certainly appreciate all the handcuffs you all have to work through financially. I don't know how you do it. And Chief Engineer 15 years ago, I asked him in court, we were going through the 10-year plan, and I asked him, how much money do we bring in towards this 10-year plan a year? And he said, well, I'll have to talk to you after court. He said, I'm not allowed to talk about this because it's so bad that the governor said I'd lose my job if I talked about it. And
Well, I'm retiring at the end of this week, so I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
and you know how bad it is.
I'll be blunt honest with you. I will tell you that, Ethan alluded to it earlier, an increase in the gas tax would have added, what was it, about 300,000 to Henderson
I
County?
think it was 200, but
But-
it was substantial.
It was a substantial amount of money, say $250,000 we would have just added to the post-secondary program, not including the other programs that we manage also, like our we call it FDO5, but basically our resurfacing program for our state primary routes like US 41 or US 60, those type of routes. So yeah, an increase in the gas tax would make our jobs a lot easier and would allow us to provide a much better infrastructure for the citizens of this county and the state of Kentucky.
Amen. We've
So-
said many times it was well, I'll say it was a failure of leadership in both the House and the Senate to get that done, but it's neither here nor there. Now we got to deal with what we've got. So,
I mean, there's a lot more to it than I'm privileged to, that I know that goes on. So, but yeah, it would definitely help us all out. And Kentucky needs it. I mean, compared to Indiana, we got more miles of roads, more square miles of land. Their population is like 16 or 17 million. Kentucky's is 4 million. So we have a much smaller tax base to maintain the roads we have than some of our bordering states do.
and yet they still raised the gas tax 3 years ago and are using it to great effect. Indiana is.
And
That's an editorial comment on my part, Jason. You don't have to say that.
Indiana has they effectively manage their roads and do a good job with the assets they have available. Yes, sir. I agree.
And not a single legislator lost their job over it.
In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, people have a short-term memory. So they may not like something today, but 6 months later, they won't remember what they didn't like. But, everybody's got their own perception, and you have to respect everybody's perception.
Well, thank you.
Well said.
Can we have a?
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you,
I
appreciate
was
it.
going to say that after we voted, but thanks for your help all these years, Jason.
Yes, sir, and after you vote, if you want me to, I can give a quick update on I-69 if you're interested.
We're going to hear more about I-69 here in a moment. Yes, sir.
Real quick, you can, if you would like, table the flex fund discussion, and then I will just need the minutes for that meeting whenever you bring it back up. Or you can just vote on it now and make the decision. Because Union's done that before. They'll just table it and then talk about it and then come back, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Can
to
we
me,
def-
it's 6 of one, half dozen.
Can we
of the
defer to Beth and Tim, because I'm ready to go if they are.
Yeah, I'm ready also, Charlie.
I mean,
You've got the roads in your district, but I'm,
I personally would like to keep the flex funds.
okay.
I would too.
One last thing, if you don't mind, please. Over time, as our state rural secondary roads improve, they evaluate and grade them, okay? And so the better the grade is for the state portion of the rural secondary roads, the greater the percentage of flex funds over time. So, like right now, let's just, they grade them like A through D, D being the worst, A being the best. So, like if our roads are graded at A, then it's like you all get, I think it's 20 or 25% of the flex funds, or 20 to 25% of the total rural secondary allocation for the county goes to flex funds. If it's a B, it's like 15%. If it's a B, it's 20%. If it's a C, it's 15, and if it's a D, it's 10. 10 is the lowest. So, I believe Henderson is it a B or a C?
I think most of them are C's.
Most of the counties in our district are Cs. I don't recall exactly what Henderson's was evaluated and scored, but if it's a C, it's 15% goes to flex funds. If we get it up to a B, then 20%. So the better we're able to maintain the state portion of the rural secondary roads, it will increase the percentage that goes to the flex funds. Just want to share that with you also. Thank you.
So do you need to vote on at least the KYTC expenditures? And then we can table the flex funds and talk about it, if that's what you'd like. I don't have any problem with that.
That's fine.
Okay. So we need I'm sorry?
Motion.
Yeah, we need a motion to approve the KYTC funds on this recommendation. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the KYTC funds.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Ethan? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we will review the flex funds if that's okay. I'll get back with you.
Perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You going to talk about 69 now?
Yeah, if Jason wants to give us an update.
All right, so if whenever you all decide about the flex funds, just let us know so we know how to proceed.
Yeah.
I figure 2 weeks at your next meeting, you'll
I
be.
think that'll work.
Yes, sir. 69, so 69 is moving forward, and I'm really happy to say that. I started working here in January of 97, and that's all I've heard about is a new bridge over the Ohio River, interstate through Henderson, et cetera, and the fact that 25 years later, we're finally making headway on that, that's pretty exciting. I will tell you that so we're at in the process for procurement. So the design build teams submitted their statement of qualifications this week. And I don't remember the total number of teams, but let's hypothetically say there were 6 design build teams, all right? And so we want to shortlist that down to approximately 3 design build teams to move forward. So the technical review team is reviewing those statement of qualifications, and by June the 16th, they will have a short list of 3 to 5 teams. 5's the max, 3's the minimum. 3 to 5 teams that will move forward with bidding the design build project. With the bids being due in either late November or early December. I think it's late November. And the goal is to have this project awarded for construction by the end of this calendar year. So the fact that they've got their statement of qualifications submitted, that's like a huge hurdle. That's like, it's been a long process, many steps, but that's like a huge milestone. And so once they shortlist it and publish that shortlist on June the 16th, then those teams will start to do their final designs and putting their final numbers together over the course of the next several months to the point where we will award this project at the end of the calendar year. And with it being design build, that means that's part of the reason why it takes several months
is because they actually have to, they have to have 70% of the design done by the time it bids. So you got consultants that are designing the roadway at the same time. You got a contractor bidding based off of the consultant's design.
And to clarify, we're talking all about section 1.
Correct.
One of two. Section 1 goes from 425 up to 60.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about more, and then
Yes,
section
sir.
2 is to the river. All the details Jason's giving here about what's happening for section 1.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I guess sometimes I get so used to working in that environment that I assume everybody's
Right.
they got the same level of understanding that I do, so I apologize for that. So yeah, section 2, what basically goes from US 60 and ties in with Indiana.
Yeah.
That section is scheduled
That's
later.
the bridge, yeah.
Yes, sir, that's the bridge, and so that would be the more expensive section because of the bridge. I mean, you're talking about a bridge that's like a mile long, and that will occur in the near future. So,
Hopefully.
yeah. I'm trying to be optimistic about that, but yeah,
Me too.
but doing section 1 helps to push section 2.
Yes,
So.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's where we're at, and it's moving along. And as of this time, I don't see any roadblocks that will prevent us from awarding that project at the end of this calendar year.
And we hope to be breaking ground on the upgrades first of next calendar year. That's the target.
Hopefully, the ideal is that this time next year we're moving dirt or making progress on the job. I mean, I think April would be the earliest they could get started. And that depends a lot on, what kind of weather we get next spring, if it's a real wet spring or dry, warm or cold, whatever. But by May, this time in May, there should be a cloud of dust going somewhere.
Yeah.
All
Knock
right.
on wood.
And it's, we got, if I'm not mistaken, we have it scheduled for section 1 with the completion of June of 2025 is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that this time last year when you drove the roadways, there was hardly any cars out. It was like, I'd be on I-69 and it was like a ghost town in places. But it also hurts us too because, our cabinet is totally funded by, we're self-funded. So if you don't own a car and you don't buy gasoline and you don't have a driver's license, you pay $0 to the highway department. And when people quit driving last year, that really hurt us on our revenues, and a lot of things that we were planning on doing had to get postponed. So just kind of give you an update on why progress may seem to be slow. I mean, it hurt our revenues so much that we were just trying to make sure we could make payroll at times, and that's a bad place to be in. So.
I've seen a lot of core drilling. I guess they're testing the soils.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is that what?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you got to do the core drilling in order to design your bridge foundations, and plus us being so close to the New Madrian fault line, they got to design them for earthquakes too. So yeah, you'll see a lot more core drilling going on as this project is developing because part of that design build is you got to design all those bridges too, and so they got to do more core drilling, and as we're buying right away and getting access to properties to do that, you're going to start seeing a whole lot more of that. So this year here is basically going to be design year, and next year will be construction year. And the reason we're doing a design build project is because it makes the process quicker. When compared to your traditional design bid build, this is a design bid build basically all wrapped into one project instead of doing it in separate stages. So it takes years off of the schedule, to be honest with you. And it's a good way of doing business. I think you'll see more of that in the future. And I will say that there are some very innovative concepts with I-69. The idea of roundabouts at 2nd Street. I'm not here to take any credit, but that was my idea. And I'll tell you why I come up with this idea is because I was thinking about Owensboro. And if you get off on the Owensboro bypass, which is US 60, and you get off at Frederica Street, if you're heading east on the bypass and you get off that ramp and then you take a right going south on the Frederica Street and you want to go into Chick-fil-A, because that's the most popular place down there, right? It's always, the drive-through's always wrapped around the building. You got maybe 200 or 300 feet there to basically go over 3 lanes to make a left turn. It's impossible. And with I'm having a brain fart here. The road that comes out beside Palmer's, 2083, is that right?
2084.
2084, is that right? You get the same situation as you got in Owensboro. Ideal, I mean, except this is maybe even shorter than the one in Owensboro. And I'm like, that's gonna be a problem. And then I'm thinking, and I don't wanna have 5 red lights in a quarter of a mile, because you already got one at the high school, you got one down there at Clutie Park, and you're gonna probably need 3 more red lights. And I'm like, and I don't know about you all, but I don't like red lights, okay? I'm impatient. And so I was like, a roundabout's the way to solve the problem. So I was really just thinking about one roundabout at 2084, and then the discussion just ballooned into 3 roundabouts, which is even better, because then you got rid of all those red lights that nobody likes.
Jason, in the interest of time, because we have some more
Gotcha.
stuff to go to, thank you for, there's going to be more news coming out about all this as the thing begins to take shape, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting, so
Yeah.
thank you for your hard
But I
work.
do think it's going to make Henderson beautiful.
Yeah.
It's going to be a gateway, and it's going to make people want to stop here and enjoy Henderson. So, and all that's because of the leadership of this court, the leadership of your judge, and the leadership of the city, because they can see how it's going to be beneficial. So,
Yeah.
kudos to you, Judge, and the court.
Thank you. Now,
Good luck in your retirement.
yeah, we'll be seeing you, I got a feeling. Related to this is a request that KYTC is bringing to us regarding some land that will be created by some of this construction, land that will be needed to be owned by the county, most likely. And Nick, want to come up and walk us through this?
Nick Hall, I'm with District 2 Planning. Yeah, as he said, and as Jason alluded to, this is more fast-paced than normal, so we're doing things normally we would do a little later in the process now, and that's asking a commitment from the court to take some of these things back. We asked the same thing of the city on their portion on the 351 roundabout area. But these, as you'll notice, each one of these maps up here are labeled draft, subject to change, because some of these things will be tweaked a little bit. We don't want to, try to tell you this is exactly what you're going to get, but we're asking for a commitment just to take the general idea of this. And this road here is there, can anybody see this? Is there another? You guys can't see this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can see it.
Is off of Bowling Lane. It doesn't have a name. We just called it a county road. That'd be up to the court to name that later. But so we're asking for commitment to take that. As you can see, it accesses the property, and this is actually north of where the Section 1 stops, but we're going to build it as part of Section 1. So that would be a new county road, or at least that's what we're anticipating would be, and we're asking the court to accept that.
And the purpose here is to access this ground, which will be landlocked if we don't do this, by the creation of I-69. So to be
Right.
fair to the property owner,
Yeah.
That's correct.
creating this road to keep that person from getting landlocked.
Correct.
The KYTC will build this road and then give it to us, basically.
Right. Mhm.
And it's about a half a mile, right? And it'll be paved road to county spec.
Yes, I believe so, yeah. And this is around Bethel, or Tillman Bethel, I think I said that backward, Tillman Bethel. That'll be required to be realigned, as you can see, because a section of US 60 there is going to be realigned, as you can see, as part of this project for the new interchange. So Tillman Bethel, excuse me, will be reconnected in there, so we would ask the county to, that's already a county road, just to accept that new alignment there. But also as part of that, there's going to be a couple of little sections of 60 left,
Right.
and a little piece of Bethel Tillman that'll be left that'll still access the local property, and obviously those won't be, we don't see those being necessary in the state route, so we would ask the county to take those little pieces too. And again, those might change a little bit in length or whatever, but basically that's what it'll be.
And if you look at that map, it's the spots of road in between the 2 black arrows.
Right, yes.
So they will build a new section of Tillman Bethel that goes from US 60, which is the wide road at the bottom of the picture,
Right there.
and tied into existing Bethel Road. and also a piece of New Bethel Road that cuts back towards the west and connects in with that little existing piece of 60 that's there in between the two smaller arrows. Everybody see that so far? And as I understand it, you want to maintain that little bit of 60 to make sure you have access to that field as well as utilities on that side of I-69. Is that right?
I believe so. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct, and I caused this problem too. Because they wanted to put
Hey,
a loop ramp in.
Jason, you need to come up to.
So the reason this came about is because the original layout showed a loop ramp, basically all the ramps on the south side of that interchange. And I don't know about you all, but I'm not a big fan of loop ramps either, okay? They're slow, they're difficult, whatever. And the reason they had a loop ramp is because they was trying to tie into Timlin Bethel at its existing location. And I was like, slide the entrance down to get you space away from the interchange and get rid of the loop ramp, and that's how we got to this point today. And so but we still got to be able to maintain access to this property that's in this little corner here.
Where you see the blue X's, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've had to ask you all to accept this. Thank you.
Now, just so everybody understands, existing 60, you see it, it's going to be taken out in large part. They're building 60 new just south of the existing 60. That's the large road cutting across the bottom of the screen there. Much of that will be demolished, right?
Right,
And-
anything in the yellow
but-
axis. Yes.
Everything
Right.
in yellow is coming out.
Right. And,
Will there be a new viaduct?
Yes, there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And will 60 go under 69?
over the top, I think, right?
Over the,
60 goes over 69.
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah, so once we elevate it, yeah, so it'd be kind of like a viaduct over I-69.
yeah. Want to go to the next slide?
okay,
Yeah.
that's just a blow up of the section 60 that wasn't shown on that previous map. It's on the other side of 69, and it's just another section of 60.
Yeah, so to orient the court, I-69 in this photo is now on your far right. You can barely see it on the far right. And this section of 60 in between the two black arrows is going to be left, again, to access that field,
Yes, sir.
to provide access, so it doesn't get landlocked.
Right.
And any utilities that might exist in that field, correct?
Exactly, yes, sir.
But you'll see that I-60 is being demolished on either side of it, up to the new alignments.
Well, 60 is going to be 4-lane out past the viaduct.
5 lanes.
5
Yeah.
lanes.
Yeah, we're going to carry the 5 lanes like you see in front of Walmart now to the other side of 69, and then we'll drop back down to 2 lanes once we get to the east side of 69.
Past the viaduct, probably.
I can't say that.
Okay.
I mean,
Still be determined.
there's 2 options. One shows dropping them all off before you get to that subdivision on the right.
Yeah.
I forget the name of that subdivision. Another option basically shows.
Pleasant View? Yeah. Anyway,
The other option shows basically dropping from 5 lanes and being down to 2 or 3 lanes as we cross the railroad track. So
Okay.
I can't say which option is the way they're going to do it because there's not 200 feet difference in which option they use, and they haven't made a decision on that as far as I know.
yeah, to be determined.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And then one more photo?
Yeah,
there you go.
okay. And this addresses the detention basins. There's going to be 2 of those, and this will be a joint transfer to the city and the county, and the city's already accepted. But those detention basins are going to be necessary to build this project and help the drainage out there. And what we're asking the city county to do jointly is to accept those basins, to maintain them and operate them once we build them and the project's done. So.
At their most recent meeting, the city voted to approve their land request from KYTC, and they accepted, I think, the South Detention Basin. It was spelled out for them. Or are we going to jointly except the south and north basins.
That's the way we wrote it. If it needs to be changed, we can change that, but the way we present the city was just jointly, city and county, both basins. Because we weren't sure where the way I understood it, it's going to be operated by a joint city-county board that's going to operate it, so we weren't sure where the lines were drawn. So we just jointly offered that, both basins jointly to city-county, is the way the resolution is written.
The court may know where these are located. We may have talked about these before. But if you, in the upper left-hand corner is Walmart. So this is behind Walmart. And if you may recall, the detention basins are being dug to both provide material, dirt, to build up the roadway as it traverses these fields, but also to help with the expected impacts of water flow through those fields, because we are in the Canoe Creek watershed right there, flood basin. And so the use of these basins for those two things, and we've talked about that for some time, and what I would suspect would eventually happen is the city and county would take these into our maintenance, and under the umbrella of the flood mitigation board, just keep them maintained. And we have other options too with using these in recreational ways if we want to, with walking paths around them, or some future use that's more than just to hold water, maybe more aesthetic. But at some point, the state has to give this ground to us to maintain. So anything you want to add to that, Nick?
No, that's it. We just wanted, early on, it seems weird asking all these things up front, but we need, because this project's moving quickly, we needed to get this commitment to take these, and we can work out some of the smaller details before it's officially transferred. This is just a commitment that you will accept.
Will these be like borrow pits?
Jason, you want to?
So as the judge alluded, we need this area to have material to build I-69 up out of the floodplain. So yeah, you could think it was a borrow pit. But the other portion of this is that it would, based off of our hydraulic calculations, it should help alleviate, it should work as storage for flooding of Canoe Creek and help alleviate flooding through Henderson when we have those heavy rainfall events. Because with that storage, it'll allow for a slower release of that water as it goes through Henderson, trying to make its way to the Ohio River. So it has two benefits, which I think the second benefit is probably more impactful than the first one is.
For us, it is, yeah.
Will they maintain water all the time in it?
It's designed to slowly release, so if we have a spell where we have a long period without rain, it will
evaporate. Yeah, I mean.
Well, it's made to release slowly too. So, and it's also made to go down into the ground table. So, if you go several months without rain, it could dry up. From the conversations I've had, which again gives you more storage when the floods do come back. So, they won't completely dry up. There will always be some amount of water in them, but the water could drop 2 or 3 feet in a dry season.
And if it did, then our responsibility would be for mowing it, or what, is that what we do, Bill, or what would we do? What's the maintenance issue? Oh, he's asleep.
Well, I think similar to Canoe Creek, where we pay the flood mitigation board to handle mowing and maintenance, and we'd leave the schedule to them and contribute a certain amount of the funding for that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the maintenance would be left to us.
And then you can use
mostly mowing.
And then, like the judge said, you can use it as a recreation area, walking paths, maybe fishing. I don't know. It's up to you all if you all own it at that time. But it would give people a place to have a nice aesthetic area to enjoy the outdoors.
And if you look at the map, you see where Van Wyck Road is going to be repurposed a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Nick. But there will be access from one side of I-69 to that area, either walking or biking. They're going to utilize parts of Kimsey and Van Wyck to create that path towards those mountains, and then out in the county as well, so you can access Kimsey Lane going out into the county.
Yeah, actually, coming from Walmart, there will be a tunnel that goes underneath the new 41 alignment for walkers and bikers. The northbound side of 41 will become a walking path. The southbound of 41 will become, I guess, the new Kimsey Lane, we'll call it.
Right.
Where it gets off there at Van Wyck, like the judge was alluding to. So it's going to have a lot of recreational, pedestrian biking opportunities
Yeah.
right there within the area of these ponds.
Yeah. So that they have planned access to these ponds.
Just for reference, that, the lower left there, that's the new interchange with 41 and 69 there,
Right,
that
right.
ramp. And that green line just north of there will be the tunnel of the walkway underneath.
Gotcha.
So,
And this should actually relieve some of the waters off of Canoe Creek.
that's the intention.
You like a storage.
Yeah. But again, by building up I-69, they're creating a different situation with that floodplain, so this is to help account for that. Any other questions about that? Now, we have a choice. We have a resolution going ahead and accepting this plan, which will not actually come to fruition for several years. There's many other details to work out, but this is a 2025. This is a first step, and if you're comfortable doing this now, we can go ahead and do it. If you want to table it for 2 weeks until the next session, we can do that too. What's the pleasure of the court?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and accept it. If you want to read the resolution first.
Is everybody
Yeah,
prepared to
yeah,
vote now?
I'm good with it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Clerk, would you read the resolution, please?
At a duly called meeting of the Henderson County Fiscal Court at 9:30 a.m. on the 25th of May, the following resolution was duly adopted. Whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Highways has undertaken a project to construct the I-69 Ohio River Crossing, Section 1. Whereas it is determined that this project will create the following assets that will not serve a purpose in the state highway system. 1, a proposed new road and associated right-of-way from a point approximately 0.14 miles from the end of Bowling Lane, running parallel to proposed I-69 for a distance of approximately 0.4 miles. The proposed realigned section of the Tillman-Bethel Road and associated right-of-way from a point on the existing road approximately 0.12 miles from the intersection of current US 60 and proposed bypass section of Tillman-Bethel Road to the intersection of the proposed 60, a distance of approximately 0.14 miles. This would be a connector from the old alignment of Tillman-Bethel Road to the proposed new alignment of Tillman-Bethel Road, a distance of approximately 0.02 miles. A proposed bypass section of US 60 and associated right-of-way from a point 0.03 miles west of the proposed connector with proposed US 60 to a point that is approximately 0.08 miles west of the southbound off-ramp of the proposed I-69 US 60 interchange, a distance of approximately 0.24 miles. A proposed bypass section of US 60 and associated right-of-way from a point 0.02 miles east of the northbound on-ramp of the proposed I-69 US 60 interchange to the intersection with the proposed bypass section of Tillman-Bethel Road, a distance of approximately 0.05 miles. Proposed south detention basin, including stormwater facilities and access roads constructed south of the proposed I-69 route east of the proposed I-69 US 41 interchange on parcel 603 of the ORX Section 1 project. Proposed north detention basin, including stormwater facilities constructed south of the proposed I-69 route east of the proposed south detention basin on parcels 605 and 606 of the ORX Section 1 project. Whereas the Department of Highways now possesses, upon completion of the project, the transfer of ownership, maintenance, responsibilities, and associated right-of-way of these roads to the County of Henderson, and the ownership and maintenance responsibilities of the two detention basins jointly to the City and County of Henderson. Now therefore, the County of Henderson Fiscal Court does hereby resolve to agree to accept the proposal from the Department of Highways and agrees to accept the transfers set forth herein upon completion of the project.
Make a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks for all your information and help, Jason. Good luck. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
And that decision you all just made, you don't know how much that was a big deal for making sure I-69 keeps moving forward, so thank you.
That's what we want to do.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Mr. Snyder has worn a 69 button, I think, as long as I've known him.
I don't know why I'm not wearing one today, but I'm probably not wearing one today because I know Section 1 is going to be done by 2025, and we'll ramp up for the bridge. I'll break out all new buttons for the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Board of Assessment Appeals, as you know, hears appeals of assessed tax value for properties. And we have a vacancy. Pam Marshall is rolling off as is required. I'm bringing to the court a proposed new member. It's Rick Kirby, a local realtor. One of the guidelines in appointing members to this board is that they have some experience in real estate valuation and real estate. And I would ask that the court support Rick Kirby's appointment to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And the next resolution is a requirement after the legislature passed House Bill 192, basically forcing the counties to reestablish both all of its coal severance funds and anything that had been requested for use of coal severance funds. And as you know, 2 years ago, I believe, we asked to have $350,000 of our coal severance funds reserved to help with matching funds for the airport movement and extension project. Well, we have, because of HB 192, we have to do that again. Don't know why, but the legislature acts in mysterious ways sometimes. So this resolution reaffirms our request for that $350 to be set aside for that purpose. Anything else you want to add to that, Mr. Clerk?
You need to read that, Kurt.
I would suggest we read the
Synopsis.
summary.
Okay,
We can-
I'm okay with that.
As the judge said, this is basically just moving, we did it from last year
Yeah.
from House Bill 200 to 352. This year it's moving from 352 to 193.
Tim,
192.
your son-in-law won't object to this, will he?
No.
We had a little trouble last time, so.
Yeah.
Resolution authorizing the filing of Kentucky Local Government Economic Development Fund project proposal grant application for up to $350,000 in local government economic development single county funds with the Department for Local Government, authorizing and directing the Henderson County Judge Executive to execute any documents which are deemed necessary to DLG to carry out this project, and authorizing the Judge Executive to act as the authorized correspondent for this project.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Oh, the next resolution is at the request of our circuit court clerk, and for good reason. As you know, the state is creating regional real ID and basically driver's license offices, both as cost-saving move, I would suspect, and for other reasons. And the initial list of established regional offices did not include one in Henderson. There's still some discretion as to where they could locate the final handful, and we would certainly make the case that Henderson is a place to have a standing, standalone office for driver's licenses and regional real ID applications. If we do not have one established here, people will either need to drive to the nearest ones, which will be Madisonville or Owensboro. There will occasionally be mobile units that come to communities to handle this, but many of us feel like this would be an undue burden, not just on the people of Henderson County, but for counties west of us, which if Henderson was not a choice, would have to drive an hour to get, or close to it, to get to a regional ID office. So we thought it would be good to, along with the city, to pass a resolution asking for that consideration from the state. That's what this
Judge, what, there's
resolution
17
is.
or 18 right now, there's estimated a total of about 28.
I think that's about right.
So there's room
Yeah.
for us.
There's still a chance.
Well, and driver's licenses are so important for employment and our people to be able to get to their work. If somebody gets a DUI and needs a hardship license, I mean, this is important, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution, please.
Whereas by May 2nd, 2023, Kentucky residents will have to obtain a Kentucky Real ID to use as identification for airport security checkpoints for the United States. And whereas after June 30th, 2022, all identification credentials, including Real IDs, will be obtained either by either physically going to a regional driver's license office or applying online if renewing one's credentials. Whereas further, anyone who needs to change the address on their credential will have to physically go to a regional driver's license office to update their ID or driver's license. And whereas there is no regional office located in Henderson County, Kentucky, which means that Henderson citizens must travel to Madisonville or Owensboro to obtain a real ID. And whereas this causes great hardship to Henderson citizens who have limited transportation, who have mobility issues, and/or are senior citizens. And whereas a regional driver's license office in Henderson is rational due to Henderson's proximity to a major airport in Evansville, Indiana. The Evansville Regional Airport is 17 miles from downtown Henderson, and 10 times more people fly annually out of Evansville Regional Airport than the Owensboro Regional Airport. Whereas the regional driver's license office in Henderson is desirable since it will be located on a critically geographically north-south travel thoroughfare. And whereas the I-69 corridor and the future I-69 bridge in Henderson is and will continue to be a major north-south roadway and is designated as a principal artery on the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet record. And where Owensboro's Blue Bridge enjoys less than 1/3 of the traffic of Henderson County's north-south 41 bridges, with an annual average of almost 40,000 vehicles per day as measured in 2018. And whereas Evansville, Indiana is the most popular shopping and dining destination for Western Kentucky, and all Kentucky travelers, including Webster and Union County residents, must go through Henderson County to get there. And whereas a regional driver's license office located in Henderson would alleviate these issues and would also be closer for some citizens located in neighboring Union and Webster counties. Whereas the Henderson City County Cooperative Study Group has reviewed this information and heard presentations on the regional offices for identification credentials, including real IDs, and believes that Henderson County will serve as a good location for a real ID regional office. Now therefore be it resolved that the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby supports the efforts to locate a regional driver's license office here in Henderson County to benefit its citizens.
Move to make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And just so you know, we will immediately forward this to the proper authorities at KYTC so they see it. Any other thoughts?
Judge, I can't remember, I sat in on some of this with a very informative meeting, which City County Co-op, as did Magistrate Moran and you as well. Who was the deciding body on it? I can't remember what Mr. McGee.
It is an office of KYTC that's been assigned to this task.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Yeah.
It may be the same body that moved the unemployment office to Owensboro.
And Madison.
Yeah. We need to vote on this, though.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a couple lists of surplus property. The first is from the jail, and the one thing I'd ask of Jailer Brady, if you wouldn't mind 1 second, just coming on up. This is an easy one. This is a long list, mostly of mowing equipment. And,
Yes.
and are you doing this because all the equipment's truly worn out, or are you anticipating not needing it anytime soon? Or are you going to buy new, or what's the plan?
They purchased new last year, and
Gotcha,
that
gotcha.
was what was left.
Okay, gotcha. That's all I had.
Been worked pretty hard, hasn't it?
It has, it's been well maintained.
So any questions about either list?
No. Do we need to read them?
We do. Well, we can read the summary if you'd like.
There isn't, wow.
Hmm?
No, summary doesn't.
We don't have to go through item by item. We can
No,
just, yeah,
no, it's
yeah, we're
just
just
the
going to do the
resolution,
resolution.
yes.
Right.
But everybody's got a copy.
Right.
They mailed that.
Resolution declaring certain county property to be surplus and providing for the disposition thereof, whereas the Henderson County Jailer is in possession of property that is no longer of use to the Henderson County Detention Center or by any other departments within Henderson County, whereas the fiscal court has reviewed the list of properties submitted by the jailer, setting forth the item's description, original purpose, and reason for disposition, whereas pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the fiscal court finds that it's in best interest of the county to deem the property as surplus and provide for the disposition thereof. As such, the Henderson County Fiscal Court wishes to offer said property to be sold by public auction and/or by selling for scrap or disposing of a garbage. And now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the personal property of the Henderson County Detention Center listed on Exhibit A, which is attached here to and incorporated herein, is hereby declared to be surplus. If Exhibit A designates the personal property to be offered for sale at an online auction, it shall be sold using a duly advertised online auction pursuant to all applicable laws at such time and in such manner as shall be arranged by the county judge executive. If Exhibit A designates the personal property to be sold for scrap or disposed of as garbage, the Henderson County jailer shall make suitable arrangements for the disposition thereof and shall forward the proceeds, if any, to the Henderson County Treasurer to be transferred to the general fund pursuant to KRS 67.0802.
Get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second, whichever one you do.
Motion and a second.
Whichever one of us you-
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now, same drill for the sheriff.
Any questions on the sheriff's equipment?
No.
Okay. Resolution declaring certain county property to be surplus and providing for the disposition thereof, whereas the Henderson County Sheriff is in possession of property that is no longer of use to the Henderson County Sheriff's Office and/or by any other departments within Henderson County unless noted on Exhibit A, whereas the fiscal court has reviewed the list of property submitted by the sheriff, setting forth the item's description, original purpose, and reason for its disposition, whereas pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the fiscal court finds that it is in the best interest of the county to deem the property as surplus and provide for the disposition thereof. As such, the Henderson County Fiscal Court, which has offered said personal property be sold by public auction and/or by selling for scrap or disposal as garbage, and now therefore be resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the personal property of Henderson County Sheriff's Office is listed on Exhibit A, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein, is hereby declared to be surplus. If Exhibit A designates personal property to be offered for sale or online auction, it shall be sold using a duly advertised online auction pursuant to all applicable laws at such time and in such manner as shall be arranged by the county judge executive. If Exhibit A designates personal property is sold for scrap or disposed of for garbage, the Henderson County Sheriff shall make suitable arrangements for the disposition thereof and shall forward the proceeds, if any, to the Henderson County Treasurer to be transferred to the general fund pursuant to KRS 67.0802.
Motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions about that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Next item, we have to establish a separate bank account for the ARPA funds we are anticipating. Is it the request of DLG, the advice of DLG, correct? Brenda? Yeah. So there's a resolution doing that. Any questions about that? I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution authorizing the establishment of a separate bank account for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds. Whereas the passage of the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Henderson County will be eligible to receive funds to be dispersed in accordance with said act. And whereas ARPA requires a separate bank account be established in order to hold said funds prior to the application for or receipt of the funds. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. One, that the Henderson County Fiscal Court authorizes and directs the county judge executive and the county treasurer to create new interest-bearing bank account for the purpose of segregation of ARPA funds with Field and Main Bank. Two, the Henderson County treasurer is directed to obtain sufficient assurances from Field and Main Bank that all funds deposited in said account will be federally insured and/or backed by adequate securities per all applicable statutes, regulations, and the state auditor's requirements and guidance.
Motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any other questions?
Yes, I do. It said that it's insured, the entire amount will be insured?
Utilizing, I think, the sweep account technique we have been using, these will be insured, yes.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item, if you recall, I asked the jailer to bring to this meeting request for further raises to help retain employees at the jail in a rather dire situation related to COVID and many other issues. So if you don't mind coming up to the podium, Jailer Brady. What this resolution would do is to offer the raises to existing staff that we got confused about a little bit in the last time we had a regular fiscal court meeting. What is being proposed here is that these raises, which are the ones proposed for the new year, the new fiscal year, actually basically just start a month early. And when we vote later in June on what our positions and pay scales will be, these will remain the same for the jail going into the new fiscal year. And I've characterized all that correctly, right, Jailer Brady?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I asked you to bring this. You have a list of them in front of you. Again, this is an effort to retain much-needed existing staff, well-respected existing staff, and to make sure that the jail can continue to operate in these tough times. So anything you'd like to add to that, Amy?
They're working on hiring. We've had several applicants. Currently, we have 34 full-time and 3 part-time openings.
34.
They've hired 6. That's good.
Good.
Just got to get them trained.
Yes, ma'am. Everything you can to keep them. And did you think that in part was a response to what we accomplished last meeting in raising the starting pay?
Yes, sir.
Any questions about this? Any comments?
Amy, just refresh me, what part of the, how much of the budget that was budgeted last year have you used this year, 47, 48%?
I didn't bring that with me. Lori, do you know where we are on the budget?
Thank you.
And I guess maybe the point of that is, within your existing budget this year, you're going to be able to cover this pretty handily because you haven't been able to come anywhere close to spending your money for salaries. So,
Correct.
Yeah. And pensions as well, so.
Exactly, Judge, it's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We're at 61.79%.
Overall, or is that salaries?
That's salaries.
Salaries, yeah, so it's way well down.
So there's money in this year's budget.
Yeah, yeah. So if there are no questions, I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution fixing pay rates for detention center employees, whereas KRS 64.530 requires that the fiscal court set the reasonable compensation for certain county employees, including detention center employees, and whereas employee turnover is frequent at the Henderson County Detention Center and staffing levels become so low as to create significant operational challenges, and whereas the jailer has presented a plan for employment salary increases to increase recruitment and retention efforts, and whereas the fiscal court has reviewed and approves the jailer's plan in order to attract and retain quality employees at the detention center. Now therefore be it resolved by the Henderson County Fiscal Court as follows. 1, per KRS 64.530, the reasonable salaries at the Henderson County Detention Center are hereby fixed at the hourly rates reflected on the spreadsheet attached here 2, which is incorporated herein. 2, the finance director is hereby authorized and authorized to adjust the pay rates for the employees listed on the attached spreadsheet in accordance therewith effective Sunday, May 23rd, 2021.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 We never got a motion.
Oh, I need a motion to approve, I'm sorry.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
I move
Anybody?
to accept.
You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
I would like to discuss it a second, if you
Okay,
don't mind.
sure.
I am for the jail employees, and I'm for them to keep them and retain them and make it go. I voted against the budget. I think all of us, including you and the sheriff, and we all need to work together on this retirement issue, and I know that we've got the money to cover it this year. But what I don't think, and I don't know if anybody talked to you before the last couple of weeks or whatnot about the long-term effects of this retirement that the legislature has dumped on us. it's sort of like I was in a partnership about 40 years ago and making about $12,000 together. And I go in and find that there's a bill for a credit card for $1,000, which is 1/12 of our total income, not including taxes and what you'd have. And I approached that and said, well, what is this? Well, we needed it. Well, how are we going to pay for it? Well, that's your problem. And so I sort of feel like we're in that situation with these retirements with the 59.5% that we're going to have to match in 2020 and 2028, that right now it's just all being dumped on the fiscal court, that we've got to come up with that money to do it. And I'm not saying you can't, because you may be able to, as well as you've done your money and finances and whatnot. Right now, the jail's debt's about $9 million at 6.5% interest over time. And I figured that out last year and tried to give it to everybody. And the year one that I got here, I brought it up. Year two, I brought it up. And now year three, I brought it up. And we've actually got the numbers. I didn't realize we had it with the Compass Group. And it shows that graph of how this is going up. Maybe the legislature will come in and save us, but this is based on a 1% raise, and we're far exceeding 1% raises over the. I mean, we're going to be at the point of where we should be in 2028 by the passing of these things. And I'm not saying it's not necessary. And I was the one that made the motion to give the dollar raise and the other dollar raise, because I know you need it. And it's really hard out there, and it's going to be hard until probably at least November, when the government quits giving away that extra $300 a month, which is just, I think, devastated our economy of trying to hire people, because it's easier for them to stay home and not work than it is to work. So it's not that I'm against the jail, but I'm going to abstain on this. I voted against the budget, and I just want you to know that.
So we have a motion and a second, right? Correct? All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and I will vote aye.
And I abstain.
Abstain. It passes.
One of the things I'd like to bring up, though, Amy, if you look at the pay scale of your higher-ups, how much they moved and how much your lower moved, we really need to start addressing that problem, because the gap's getting wider and wider. And it's not going to get better with these percentage raises.
That's where you go with a percentage raise.
Yes.
And on the pay adjustments for the upper staff, the senior staff that are supervisors, you'll notice they didn't get the actual pay adjustment. They just got a flat percentage increase. The others received the pay adjustment and the percentage increase, those that are lower.
Yeah, Amy, and I no offense taken by abstention, but the sheriff has suffered with COVID, the road department has suffered with COVID, the clerk's department's, and so we're not taking care of everybody right at this moment, and I just sort of have a problem with differentiating between departments. That's my thinking. I'm sorry.
If you don't mind staying up there a second, animal control reports in your packet. Debbie Edwards had an emergency, couldn't join us today. She said if any questions about the animal control reports in here, give her a call. And then the next item is detention center report. So if you have anything to add as far as your detention center report, while you're up here, I thought, go for it.
We are finally, actually, knock on wood, COVID-free. And
COVID-free?
yes, we have 6 new hires. Got to get those trained. We've cut down on the size of the gardening this year because of lack of staffing and lack of state inmates. It's kind of a full circle. If we don't have staff, we can't open our work dorms. If we don't have our work dorms, we can't have our garden, we can't mow, provide community service. And we have to start somewhere on opening, so that's what we're working towards, and hopefully by this fall, we'll be back to normal operations. That's what we're working towards.
Good deal. Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernice Admer, County Clerk's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you all have I think Kurt gave everybody a copy. Okay. For the month of April 2021, the excess fees, $150,475 and a penny. And the total remitted to the county, $201,280.82. And our excess fees are up compared to April of 2020 by $71,000. Our total amount given to the county is up compared to April of 2020 by $95,000. And our year-to-date from January to April 2021, as compared to the same 4 months last year, have increased $198,000. So we are continuing to increase monthly and have seen a lot of revenue. People are buying lots of cars.
Good. That's
and
good
paying
news.
their delinquent taxes, and so we are increasing our activities
Excellent.
month to month.
Make a motion to accept her
Second.
report.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Bernice?
Thank you. Just
All right.
keep it coming. We need the money.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Do we need to approve the animal control or just?
No.
No, just,
Yeah.
okay.
That's just for our information. Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, 3 checks today, flow through from the city, $458.33, interest in the amount of $22.31 and $7.43 for a total today of $488.07. And the fiscal year total to date, $139,974.67.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Mr. Gold? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Ms. Ryder, if you want to come up, we're going to be taking second reading of the budget amendment to amend in reserve from Jayla Brady's budget to pay off her existing bond. And anything you want to add to that?
This is the second reading of Budget Amendment Number 4. The purpose of this is to amend into the current fiscal year proceeds as well as a corresponding appropriation to defease the Jail Series 2017 kitchen bond. The total of this for revenue as well as appropriation is $1,510,000.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Congratulations, Jayla Brady. This is a big step. I think so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you and congratulations. Okay, fund transfers.
The transfers are as presented, and these are redistributing appropriations within the existing budget. Primarily, most of these were needed to clear appropriation line shortages and/or project through the fiscal year end June 30th, 2021. You will notice on page 2, about midway on the page, there is a transfer from the general fund to the road fund. This is transferring to the road new machinery equipment line and to the recycling building repairs maintenance line from the general fund contingent appropriation line.
And I'd like to ask Mr. Hubiak, is he still with us? Bill, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium. Let me explain the purpose of this, the reasoning for this. Over the last 24 months, we've been completing the Ohio Drive project, and we've had to go back and forth with the city and the Henderson Gas Department about funds, and we've had a difference of opinion on a couple occasions about funds owed to them from their work on the Ohio Drive project that were funded by grants. And that negotiation unexpectedly spilled over into this fiscal year. Finally, we came to an agreement, but we hadn't budgeted specific line items out of which to pay those funds to the city, so we had to choose something to do that, and we chose Bill's most robust line item, which was new equipment, I believe. And we are finally square with the city, finally, I believe, But that drove down the level of money in the new equipment line item. And now Bill has a dump truck to buy, which was budgeted, expected. And just to make this all right, the easy place to go get it is out of our contingency fund. So we're good with the city. Bill will get his dump truck if we do this, and we can move on. And I don't think we have any outstanding bills from Ohio Drive at this point. We have some outstanding revenue we may get.
That is correct,
No.
Judge. It took us a while because we had to make sure that EDA would reimburse us for everything that was submitted. And it's a long process of dealing with, going through GRAD and then through EDA, making sure that all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed to make sure we were going to get our money back too. And everything was, all good to go together so that even when it comes back, everything will match in the audit, because there will be an audit on this. It was $998,000 on the EDA grant. So to make sure that everything works, and even when we come back, because we don't want to be having to pay anything back to anybody else off this. We want to make sure everything will go good on the finalization we have the audit. So that's where we're at.
And to reiterate, some of that T crossing and I dotting took longer than we thought,
Yes.
especially when it comes to working with the city on their expenses. So that's why we find ourselves here. Any other questions about that or transfers?
Also, just one other thing for the record, there is a cash transfer requesting $900,000 from the general fund to the road fund, and this is a budgeted transfer for this fiscal year.
Judge, I move we approve the transfers.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions on transfers? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And claims?
You should have your bank balances after paying claims today. Your day-to-day appropriation lines should be at approximately 91%. I do not have any additional claims. Do you have any questions on the current claims?
I have, and it's sort of between you and Steve, I guess, and on page 2 of 6, it's the demo of the Hazex, and I understand we're paying King Deep and Branham to file mechanics liens, and I'm just wanting to make sure that we just don't let those mechanic liens expire. Do we have some way to keep track of those and get those filed?
I believe that's being done through, is that the Board of Housing Appeals or something like that?
It's one of those two
It's-
boards,
okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't think it's BOZA, I believe it's the Board of Housing Appeals. And they have a line item and have contracted with their own legal
Attorney.
counsel for that, so I'm not
You don't-
aware of
you
the
don't know what's
details
happening.
behind that. I'm sorry.
I just hate to see us spending money like that and then not foreclosing on the liens, and I don't know who. I think Mr. Tassa was supposed to talk to me, but I never
Yes.
talked.
He does have, he keeps track of them as well.
Okay.
As far as action taken on that, I think that would be something.
Ask Mr. Tassa to give me a holler about that, if you would. Okay. Other question I had on that same page, we did $864 to the Deaconess Wellness Solutions for a nurse visit. And my only thought, being on the board at the health department with all the problems they're having with their budgets and the retirement issues, is there any way we might contract with the health department to have a nurse come and do that work rather than, not against Deaconess, but it just, if it, I'm more for the Henderson Health Department than I am for Deaconess.
We contract that out every year, and it'll be coming up, I guess, the end of the calendar year, so if you want to bring that up with Angela and the board about options. The health department may not be geared up to do what they do.
They may
Exactly.
not,
Yeah.
but I know for years, I mean, in Frankfurt, whenever I was judge, they did all that for the judges, gave us our flu shots and did, I mean, really above and beyond, and it was the Franklin County Health Department that did it, didn't charge us anything, or at least I didn't have to pay for it.
Anything else on claims? Need a motion to approve the claims?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Brendan, thank you this morning for I hated to bug you that late, but thank you, appreciate it.
Before we go into the good county, I'd like for everybody to keep in their prayers the Woodard family. Chief Bryant Woodard of City County Rescue passed away over the weekend.
Oh, no.
Complications related to COVID. He's a longtime public servant, good guy. Did a lot of things for the county, and we will miss him. Kenny Garrett is interim director while a new chief is sought, and appreciate him stepping into that gap short term. But if everybody would join me in a quick moment of silence for Chief Woodard. Thank you. Kenny, anything you'd like to add to that? Okay. With that, we'll go around the horn, as they say, for good of the county. Magistrate Southard.
All's good in District 3.
That was the shortest one you've ever given, I think. Master Moran.
It's beautiful out there. Everybody go enjoy it by all means, and all's good in District 2.
Master Putman.
Thank you, Judge. All's good and full.
Master McCullough.
Well, this is too slow. This is too little. All is good in District 5. I would like to thank, if you extend to Mr. Dixon for coming to our meeting. I don't think we've ever had a state rep do that before, and hear from us. Wish you could have been here today to hear from the Highway Department as well. And I am tickled to death that 69 is really moving. That's fantastic. So that's all.
Mr. Gold.
Things are good in the county attorney's office, Judge. Want to echo your sentiments about Chief Woodard. He definitely will be missed, and certainly thoughts are with his family as they go through this, and the rescue squad as well. Other than that, we have the finalization of plans are happening for the Handy Festival that'll be coming up in June 16 through 19. So just want to go ahead and tell everybody that it's actually happening, and the governor plans to apparently loosen a lot of the social distancing restrictions on June 11th. So that we were worried for months whether we could even have a festival this year, but this we think this one might be the biggest one that we've had, and it'll be the 30th annual festival. So I just wanted to go ahead and get that out there and let people know that it is going on, and it hopefully might be a nice reopening of the World Party for Henderson and this whole region.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gold, can I ask a question on the festival itself?
Yes, sir.
Did y'all do some pre-booking or kind of?
Yes. Actually,
as far as the acts, yeah.
Yes, we went through. We canceled last year, of course, and then we planned this year as if it was going to happen, but there was always a lot of finger crossing, because you never knew what was going to happen. And we did a lot of plans for social distancing and laying out a grid in the park and all these things, assuming that the social distancing requirements were still going to be there. But the bands were ones that we had contracted for last year for the 30th annual. So it's the
Wow.
biggest lineup we've ever had. And then for this year, we were able to get a couple of additional bands to that. So it's going to be the biggest lineup we've ever had. Grammy winners and Blues Award winners all up and down. So it's going to be exciting. But it's people didn't keep their prices the same necessarily from one year to the next, and those touring musicians haven't been able to tour for the last year or so. So please come out and buy a T-shirt. Because it's a free festival, but they don't play for free.
Thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck, Steve. I know members of court will be in attendance at some point that week. On the sad news of Chief Woodard's passing, I want to remind everybody watching who will watch this to get a vaccine. Nothing's perfect, nothing's guaranteed, but a vaccine gives you all of us the best chance of getting through this in a normal way and not maybe not losing as many people, and getting back to normal and doing normal things. And I know there's still some controversy around getting vaccine shots, and in Henderson County right now, there's more vaccine available than we can apparently give away. But encourage everybody you can to get a vaccine, and it looks like Kenny wants to say something.
I just wanted to add to that, just want to remind everybody that we still have that vaccination center open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6 out behind the Farm Bureau building. So, good opportunity to get it done. We're still doing first doses and the second doses for the ones that have already been there. So, if you come out to get your first dose done, we're going to tell you where you can get your second dose done 21 days later. It won't be there, but it'll be somewhere else, and we'll give you the sheet so that everybody knows where to get that second dose. So just want to remind everybody to get that done. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.